Hello, lovely podcast people. So, if you are not, this is like a warning. This is a, what's the word? Not a public service announcement, but it's a warning. Like, don't drink on a bottle of bleach. If you're not a super fan, if you're not someone who's like a proper fan of me, if you're someone who just kind of listens to these podcasts because nothing else to do whilst on the Stairmaster, if you are anyone, if you're an Amber Heard apologist, if you're any of these people, don't listen to this episode. It's not for you. Just move on, wait for next week's. Honestly, I'm not even sure if I'm going to release this right now. I say Amber Heard apologist. Also, if you're just like someone who, if anyone says anything about any member of the female genre that is in any way in any negative light, that you've got this huge bias because your boyfriend, your husband, your ex-partner left a wet towel on the bed once and you haven't gotten over it yet, just don't listen to this podcast, right? Because I think most of my listeners, most of my audience are just like these middle ground individuals who have some level of intelligence where they are able to control their bias. And we all have our lived experiences which give us biases. I've got massive biases which I constantly try to fight against to help me remain skeptical at times, to help me remain balanced at times, to help me remain reasonable at times. But the whole Amber Heard, the reason I mention Amber Heard is just because that trial is consuming my life at the minute, because it's almost like my guilty pleasure. I don't have many, but it resonates with me in so many ways. It's unbelievable. So I just can't. And it's not good for me. It actually sends me to bad places sometimes. Sometimes it gives me hopes. Unfortunately, sometimes it encourages me to record podcasts like this. I was on a walk with Sarah today. We went out to do some steps so I can get some daylight in my eyes. And I just told her about this podcast I'm thinking of doing that's being encouraged by that trial, where I literally just go out and air the dirty laundry of so many individuals in the health and fitness industry that just need taking down a peg or two because of the bad things that they are doing or have done, and that just need to get out there to just really reset the balance. Unfortunately, the amount of backlash that I will get for doing so is just one of those things. I need to be in a good place mentally, business-wise, personal life, etc. to do so, just to make sure. But anyway, if this gets shared around, there's going to be some super scared people. Anyway, lol, where was I? This has been triggered because I'll stop clicking that pen. You're all going like, tell us now, do it. Like if it's just super fans left, you're like, forget this podcast, do that one. We want to hear. It will come sometime, maybe, not sure. I have about 3 to 5 podcasts I've recorded which are just skeletons in the closet type ones. Like they would end some people in horrific ways, but it's just I've done so much good in this industry and caught so much flack for it over the last I was saying the other day, 20 years really, since I started being quite prolific on the internet with nutrition content and advice. Yeah, and I've borne the brunt of lots of hate because of the good stuff I've done, and just having a bit of a chilled period. Anyway, where was I? Comment on my most recent post. I just did a post on menstrual cycle, weighing, when you should weigh. It was prompted by an M&U graduate who had asked me some questions about a client, and I just thought I'll do this little post as a helpful reminder, because the good position, I've said this previously, probably not made the point well enough. The fantastic thing about my podcast sometimes is you guys who are practitioners and general population fitness enthusiasts alike, but none of it's pointed at anyone. It doesn't hurt anyone's particular feelings until I name names. So therefore it can kind of be it can just wash over and people can be quite accepting of it. And if you as practitioners get your followers to follow me, and it's difficult sometimes to have those difficult conversations where I'm like, you're an idiot, you're Stop weighing yourself every day and freaking out over one tiny fluctuation of your body weight from one day to the next, because an increase in, 1 kilo from yesterday would equate to roughly approximately 9 to 10,000 calories consumed yesterday if it was fat gain. I've plucked a maintenance calories figure out of the air there, obviously, and added it to the 7,700 approximate calories to make a kilo of fat. Anyway, and they can just hear that, and then you can go, see, that's what we were discussing. They go, oh yeah, I know, okay, yeah, explained it well. I am a bit of an idiot. Yeah, I'll stop crying about it and get, just carry on doing things. And anyway, where was I? I spoke about menstrual cycle, and I get this comment from obviously, it's obvious, this is never going to be a comment by a man, from a female. I think, is it a female? Is it a woman? Who knows? Someone who appears to me to have female genitalia, or would have, under her clothes. I don't even know what you're allowed to say anymore. And I will say, as I always say, I don't care. But she says, I don't like how men are commenting on menstrual cycle, although you've made good points here. Lol, thanks. And I think I replied something approximately like, well, I don't like how female doctors are allowed to talk about and help men with testicular cancer. Oh no, wait, I don't care, because I'm not sexist. And it just annoys the hell out of me. There's a very, very small parallel between the huge amount of the craziness of the situation between how Johnny Depp's life was ruined by Amber Depp, who's a liar. And although, no, she's not a liar, actually. I'm going to retract that statement, I think. Because until she is, the court finds her one way or the other. And this is, what you need to remember about that case is a defamation case. This isn't a criminal law case. It's a civil law case. The evidence it doesn't need to be of the same level. They're not talking. She is a definite abuser. She has committed domestic violence, and no one cares because it was a woman against a man. People are obviously jumping on the back going, justice for Johnny, blah, blah, blah. They don't actually care. They just want to get involved in the hysteria, but no one really gives a crap. If they see one of their friends doing it, they won't do anything about it. Everyone pretends to care, but they don't really. We all know this. Most men know this. Unfortunately, I'm just spitting facts. I've never said that before. It's a bit like, this comedian, I can't remember who, maybe it was Chris Rock. He's like, only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. If you've not heard that kind of speech quote thing, it's a good one. Where was I? So I can't say she's a liar yet, but she's obviously, we know she's admitted she's been blah, 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 domestic abuser. But, I'm fairly sure it's going to come out that she's a liar. She's made false accusations, which Johnny Depp was obviously, as always happens in these situations, and the whole flipping Me Too movement, believe women, take all women's accusations at face value, don't ask for evidence, let's believe the victim, absolute, complete and utter crap. But I'm going off topic here. Where was I? What I was saying is that there are small comparisons here of just the fact that I don't personally have a menstrual cycle does not mean I can't talk about the science of the menstrual cycle. I was going to put on my story as well about, heaven forbid this lady goes and gets a male gynecologist, OBGYN, whatever. It's absurd. When I talk about breastfeeding, I get the same thing. Oh, how can you be talking about breastfeeding? Oh, just people going mental, CIS, white, males talking about this. How can you be shaming women? Blah, blah, blah. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm talking about science and research. This has nothing to do with what genitals I have, whether I have breasts or not, whether I can have periods or not. I'm talking about the research. Likewise, someone who has breasts and I don't, if you've not breastfed, you're no really more qualified to talk to me about it or like practically qualified than me. Just because you have them, you've never used them, right? It doesn't. That's like saying, let's talk to this virgin about. I don't know if I'm going to go there, but like sex and like he's not had sex, but just because he's got a penis and blah blah. Like anyway, you've got breasts. It doesn't make you a breastfeeding expert. Likewise, breastfeeding doesn't make you an expert on lactation. Like, oh, but when I did it, this is what I ate and this happened and therefore what you're saying is wrong. No, once again, the science looks at data and your one tiny insignificant experience doesn't disqualify all of the evidence on thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of other women. And me having helped lots of women in this area, and me having been in the situation, not actually breastfeeding, but having my own child. Some of these people talking to me, you don't even have a child. At least I've seen a child being breastfed, my own child being breastfed, the nutrition that the individual who's breastfeeding my child was cooked and supplied by me. Anyway, this is just a pure rant podcast, and it's just obscene. It's very similar to someone tagged me in something, or like the appearance stuff. Oh, how can you talk about this? You haven't got abs. And and the guy saying this was very clearly a heavy steroid user, and having a go at this, young nutritionist giving out decent advice, going like, he literally wrote, take your top off and let's see your results. Like, oh my goodness, just absurd. But all these individuals really are just the same. They don't get science, and they're just people with chips on their shoulder and biases and just moronic thing. But the the one that I'm personally dealing with is this idea that I can't talk about the science of a situation, and even female influencers and female fitness industry people and female, quote unquote experts, because people have put them on a pedestal because they went and did a talk, but actually they're morons. But they are, I'm hashtag evidence-based and listen to me, calorie deficit. I've got an MS or an MSc or MA or whatever they've got. But really they're just reciting other individuals' work that's good and putting their own spin on it, which ends up making it worse. And yes, I'm talking about someone in particular. But these individuals are calling themselves evidence-based, but they're jumping on this bandwagon of, it just seems like an anti-men, only women can talk about women's issues. Just utterly absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know where to start with it, to be honest. I'm found myself somewhat gobsmacked. But anyway, in this situation of talking about breastfeeding, and menstrual cycle in this most recent one, like, I'm not there talking about, the struggles, the female struggle with the menstrual cycle, how hard it is to be a woman. I'm literally just giving advice on, I didn't even go into hormones, but the hormonal changes that occur over the cycle that tend to change body water levels, that tend to change body weight, which will lead to people who monitor body weight as one method of tracking their progress might want to be aware of that situation. I don't like you talking about men talking about menstrual cycle. And it's just, the thing that frustrates me is it's just sexism against men in such a way is very, very, very well accepted. If you said that in the opposite direction and made it a gendered issue about women not being able to talk about a male issue, there would be uproar, and it's ridiculous, and it just gets on my nerves. And that's one of the reasons I should have said this at the beginning. Just, I know some of you like to listen to me because I'm a deeper thinker. I guess this is going to have to be a wisdom episode. Not a great deal of wisdom, but just talking facts that I know some people will find refreshing to hear. And that's really the reason I've chosen to do this, is because I think just for some people, they'll just go, Oh my goodness. Thank goodness someone has had the balls. I don't know if you're allowed to say that, because is it like everyone's like, oh, but balls are weak and, can't stand to be kicked, and they're this weak, dangly, rubbish thing. That shouldn't be a thing of bravery. A vagina and vulva can stand having a baby come out of it and bleed once a month and beaten, and it's absolutely fine. And I literally saw someone write that, which cool, yeah, like I sort of get it. It did actually make me laugh, the way it was like, there was other stuff on it that was just like, some of the descriptions, it cracked me up. But yeah, just, some people resonate. It's just like, oh, thank goodness someone's just saying stuff that everyone's just shying away from saying. Like, this is why I'm loving some of the Johnny Depp thing, is he's just stood up against something that's horrific. And, I've sort of seen him say, as soon as these false accusations were made, my life was ruined. Like, no matter what happens with this case, my life has been ruined. And it's true. It's horrific. And, because people don't stand up for what's right, because they're afraid and they're chicken and they're spineless. Lots of individuals who I've been acquainted with in the fitness industry are exactly that way, super spineless, super selfish, only stand up for, and I think lots of businesses are very much the same, a bit like, was it Disney who just literally dropped Johnny Depp, before anything was, just basically based on an accusation, which is just disgusting. That can happen. And that's why I retracted the whole thing about Amber Heard's a liar, because I don't think we are there yet. Like, I would like her to go to get a criminal record, go to prison, get punished for being a abuser, because she has admitted, that's a foregone conclusion that she's done that, as far as I'm aware, as far as she's admitted verbally with recordings. I think the recordings maybe are not admissible in criminal court because there's a law about entrapment. I don't know. I'm not a super expert. It's just a hobby interest. And unfortunately, this case is just about defamation, and defamation's a tricky one in a civil court and those kind of things. Like, civil court's really just a joke, to be frank. I've had my own defamation situations in civil court, and it's just a joke. It's just a money earner, really, for lawyers, sadly. So that's why I've recorded this podcast, just for some people to go, oh, thank goodness someone's actually said this stuff. So thank goodness someone's calling out these ridiculous women. Unfortunately, it's only women I've seen saying it. 100% only women I've seen saying this. Don't buy from men in the fitness industry. It's a male-dominated industry. Despite the fact that dietetics is something like 95 to 98% female-dominated. I don't know the stats for nutrition. Obviously, the fitness industry, like personal training, that's a different thing. But my industry personally is nutrition. But you look at the AFN type stuff, it's mostly females. So, but it's disgusting. Like, if you ever saw, if you saw in dietetics men saying, don't buy from women, support men, don't do this, don't do that, it'd be ridiculous. They'd get shouted down, it'd be wrong, you'd be sexist. People wouldn't stand for it because people are sort of scared of feminism. I saw this, I think it's Bill Burr, he does some hilarious comedy. I'd have to swear to really, it's just, which I don't tend to do on the podcast, obviously, because I know it's sort of family listeners. It's like people just don't call these people out because they either want to fuck them or they, I don't know, it's funny. Anyway, no, I'll leave it there. So, complete rant. If you resonated with it, I don't know what you're going to do with this. Share a screenshot of this, just going, someone talking sense. I don't know. Be interesting to hear your feedback somehow. Probably not going to do a post about this. But let's just get rid of this flipping attacks on either gender with massive generalizations. Like, the problem is I hate when it's people who pretend to be I'm evidence-based, and then they're like, if they think evidence-based, they say mostly the correct stuff on nutrition. But about anything else, they're just like throwing out random stats from the Daily Mail about whatever, and making completely unqualified statements about who and who shouldn't be able to talk about certain issues, mostly because it's what's going to make them money. I see this as like, only women should be teaching this, and really it's just women with courses on that who are just trying to do the same as, we've had this spate of other courses saying like, stuff about M&U, like, oh, it's not accredited with so-and-so, and it's like, accreditation with that governing body means absolutely nothing. Like, Active IQ have zero, absolutely 100% zero expertise in nutrition, so being accredited by them means zero in terms of the quality of that content, literally zero. Which is why we don't choose to be accredited by them. If for some reason, there are reasons we might get accredited with them one day, because it would help people who are in the military or the armed forces, and I feel like maybe blue light people. Certain CPD budgets only go if you're accredited by these things, and it's just because of the imperfect, stupid industry that's being created as smokes and mirrors to make people money. But we stand for evidence-based nutrition. Everyone knows that we're the best, so we just don't do those things. Man, I'm just ranting now, aren't I? Anyway, thanks for being a listener of the podcast. This is a change of tact. Give me some feedback. I'll never do one of these again if you just send it to me and go, Martin, love your parenting stuff, love your nutrition, love your tricep selfies, love some of the wisdom stuff. Don't like it when you rant about that. You know, I'll take feedback on board. I'm thinking of starting a TikTok where I just talk about stuff that's very me, almost as like a catharsis. Do some baby content, do some just funny content, do some stuff from my personal life, funny content that just I don't tend to show anywhere, because some of it's just a bit risque that I just don't think people would really enjoy, that they're following me for evidence-based nutrition, but it's still me and part of my personal life. It would just be funny, just a thing to express myself. You know, like people just, oh, I do a bit of painting, I do a bit of sewing. Anyway, this is random. Okay, until next time, much love.